Hello and welcome to my channel. I've got a few more tin can Christmas projects to make, so let's get started. For the first project, I'm starting with a large can. I gave it a coat of brown paint and then let it dry. Next, I used some watered down white glue and covered the can and then sprinkled it with cinnamon. When the glue was dry, I covered the whole thing in another layer of the white glue. This helps to seal in the cinnamon. Once that was dry, I decoupaged a picture to the front of the can. Next, I used some styrofoam scraps and filled the inside of the can. I then used some modeling paste to cover the top of the styrofoam. I would have preferred to use Snow-Tex, but I only had this in my stash. I then sprinkled clear glitter over the wet paste and set it aside to dry. Next, I took 2 styrofoam balls and cut a little bit off the bottom of each one. I then glued them together. Once the glue was dry, I used watered down white glue and some small pieces of tissue paper to cover the balls. I did 2 to 3 layers of the tissue paper and you don't have to worry about the wrinkles. When the glue was dry, I gave it a coat of white paint. I then gave it a coat of antiquing wax. To make the nose, I used a small stick that I had painted orange and then glued it in. To make the eyes and mouth, I glued on peppercorns. Using whole cloves would have been much easier, but I didn't have any of that on hand, so I used the peppercorns. I made a small divot and then glued the peppercorn over top of that. I used a little pink paint to highlight his cheeks. I then glued in a couple of twigs for his arms. I also gave him some peppercorn buttons. Next, I tied on a scrap of fabric for his scarf. I then wired some twig pieces together and made him a broom and then attached it to one of his arms. I glued an acorn cap to his other arm. I was trying to make it look like he was tipping his hat. I had a difficult time trying to find a stick that would work, and this is the closest I could find. To finish it, I glued him in the can and then added a few pieces of greenery. For the next project, I started by painting a few small cans gold. I then glued a piece of scrapbook paper inside the cans. For the round one, I glued the paper to a thin wood round first and then glued that inside the can. I did this because of the ridges on the bottom of the can. Next, I went through my pre-made resin pieces and found some that would work for these cans and then gave them a coat of paint. While the paint was drying, I glued ribbon onto the outside edge of the cans. I also glued some braided trim to decorate the edge of the ribbon. For the round can, I glued a scrap of foam to the bottom so I would have a level surface to glue the miniatures. I then glued the resin pieces to the back of the cans. For this one, I painted the styrofoam and then realized I didn't need to do that. I then glued the miniatures onto each of the cans. Once all the miniatures were attached, I added the modeling paste and then sprinkled clear glitter over it. Next, I cut some plastic from an ornament box to the size of the cans. I then glued the plastic to the front of the cans. Next, I glued the resin frames over the plastic on the front of the cans. I added a little glitter glue on this ribbon. That's just my personal preference. I then added some resin bells to the rectangle can and then glued the ribbon hangers to both of them. To finish it, I added some clear glitter glue to the bottom edge. This is because you can see part of the can. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and I'll see you in the next video.